The following day, I woke up early than expected, as I remained laying there for a few minutes, watching Darium's sleeping profile, before finally becoming too impatient to wait another moment for him to wake. Ouch! Darium sat up suddenly, rubbing his arm where I had prodded him, and I rolled over and pretending to still be asleep. My husband, however, wasn't fooled. "You aren't trying to wake me up, by any chance, are you?" he asked, wrapping his arms around me from behind and drawing my body towards his. "No. Whatever makes you think that?" I asked, my eyes widening in faux innocence, and then widening again as I felt the hardness of him against my back through the thin nightgown. "That's good," he said softly, his voice muffled by my mass of white hair as he nuzzled at my neck. "Now go back to sleep, it's still quite early and the sun hasn't risen yet." "But I don't feel sleepy anymore," I whined, enjoying the feel of his muscular arms around me. "I have had way too much rest, I believe," I said, rolling over to face him and looping my arms around his neck. "I was half expecting you to be up and out like you normally are. It's not like you to stay in bed so long." "I guess I want to cuddle up with you some more," he says. "Oh, really?" I replied, punctuating my words by kissing him softly on the lips. Darium enthusiastically returned the kiss, and before long, my nightwear was once more on the floor by the bed as we explored each other with our hands and lips, discovering all of the best places to touch. There was no urgency to our lovemaking, as we took our time, knowing that there was plenty of it. "This feels nice," I sighed contentedly as we lay together afterward, trying to find the will to get out of bed. "So very nice." "I agree," Darium says, stroking my back. "The sun is already rising, I better get up. I promise Katrona we will spend the rest of today together, making memories." I kissed him again before climbing reluctantly out of the warm bed. I hurriedly got into my dress, fixing my hair and face before making my way out of our chamber. I made my way towards Katrona's room to call her for breakfast, but my steps fluttered a reasonable distance away from her room when I saw Zakkai already standing there. He looked nervous as he paced at the front of the closed door, his hands occasionally raised up to knock just to be brought back down. He sighs, running his fingers through his hair before raising it back up to knock, just for him to bring it back down again. A small smile made its way to my lips at how cute he looked. I was wondering if the woman who had his heart was Katrona because his behavior said so, yet I wanted to hear it from him to be sure. I cleared my throat, causing him to glance over at my side, and a flushed look crossed his face when he saw me, no doubt flustered at the fact that I might have witnessed what happened. "Letitia," he stuttered out, his voice sounded breathless and shocked. "Wah, what are you doing here?" I raised a brow at his question as I made my way towards him. "I'm here to call Katrona for a breakfast," I responded, folding my arms across my chest. "What are you doing here?" I asked, and his face flushed even more. He looked away, taking a deep breath. I also came to call the princess for breakfast," he stated. I was starving and on my way to the dining hall before realizing I didn't know the way, so I came to call the princess, that way we can go together. He said it all at once, and I knew that was partly the truth. His explanation might be credible, yet it didn't explain why he was nervous to knock at her door. Instead, I choose not to grill him about it, at least not now. I gave a soft knock on the door, keeping my head straight while using the side of my eyes to discreetly take in his behavior. His nervousness seemed to have increased even more as he wiped off his palm on his pants when the door pulled open and Katrona stood there, already dressed for the day, looking gracious as ever. Her gaze was focused on me first, and a smile lit up her face before turning her attention to the man beside me. I saw a blush creep up her face as she shyly looks away, while Zakkai gazed at her like he was in a trance. His eyes held so many emotions that he didn't even have to voice out his feelings for her since they were all written across his face. He clears his throat, giving a head bow. "Good morning, Princess Katrona." He greets her, and Katrona nods in response. "Zakkai here doesn't know his way around the palace since it's his first time, so I thought we should show him to the dining table since breakfast will soon be served," I said, and Katrona turned to look at Zakkai, and I saw what seemed to be sadness cross her eyes before it was replaced with a blank look. My only conclusion was that she was saddened by my explanation and had hoped he had been here to see her. I knew this because this was exactly how I would feel if it were Darium. Kaytrona walks out of the room, closing the door behind her, and the three of us begin making our way to the dining room, with Zakkai trailing behind us, being unusually quiet. When we walked in, Darium was already seated at the head of the table with Neith and Nico. "Good morning." We all shared greetings with each other while Kaytrona gave a head nod and Zakkai bowed. Darium got up from his seat to pull out my chair, and I whispered a thank you before sitting down. Zakkai was doing the same for Kaytrona, and they both sat down, Kaytrona beside me and Zakkai after. The maids began serving our breakfast, which, as expected, consisted of a variety of appetizing foods, and we all began digging in. Kaytrona shuddered on her seat beside me, causing me to turn my attention towards her. I saw her gazing directly in front of her before looking away. I looked ahead of me to see what could possibly cause her discomfort and saw Neith glaring at her as she stabbed her food. "Behave yourself, Neithotep," Darium voiced scoldingly, noticing what was amiss. "What?" she replies innocently, her gaze still not wavering from Kaytrona, and though I knew that whatever struggle Neith had with Kaytrona was still not settled, and I hadn't expected her to just forgive Kaytrona, I didn't like the fact that she was making her uncomfortable. "Neith," I called out, and she turned to look at me. "Can we not do this, at least not now?" I said it with a pleading tone. "I make no promises," she said, her voice held no emotion. "Don't expect me to chuckle and braid hairs like we are close, because I won't. I don't know how you can seriously sit beside her after everything," she said, throwing a glare at Kaytrona, who whimpered, her hands shaking nervously. "I'm not. I don't know whatever happened between the two of you, and it's not my place to, but I find it very despicable and low of you to try and berate her when all she is trying to do is make amends," Zakkai says, cutting me off before I had the chance to speak. "Who might this be, Letitia?" Neith asked with a glare on her face, and I took in a deep sigh, placing down my spoon. I wished she would just leave it be. "My love, let's not start a dispute this early." Nico tries to reason with her. "You don't expect me to sit here and watch him, a complete nobody, disrespect me." "It's Zakkai, Your Highness," Zakkai replied with equal sass, not ready to bow down to whatever challenge she might pose. "I see you are one fearless one, she stated it with a smirk. "What are you? Her knights in shining armor? What if I am?" Neith scoffed, rolling her eyes. "I see she has managed to find herself yet another pawn, and honestly, I do not care, but what I won't tolerate is that attitude of yours." Her voice was filled with distaste as she spoke. "Loose it." It was Zakkai's turn to scoff, rolling his eyes. "You will only earn my respect when you know not to speak to the princess in such a manner." "You brat!" "Neithotep!" Darium called out, and his voice boomed in the dining room. "That's enough, Neith," I said, tired of their squabble. "Kaytrona is my sister, and she is a guest in this palace, as is Zakkai. I would like for you to treat them with respect as they solely deserve." I turned to look at Zakkai to see him smirking, and I glared at him, causing the smirk to be wiped off his face. "You are not an exception, Zakkai," I add a scolding tone. "Neith is Darium's sister and also a princess of this kingdom, show some respect to her." "Do I have to?" He groans out, and my glare deepens. "Fine. Good," I stated, shifting my glance between the two of them. "Now that all this is cleared up, can we all have our breakfast in peace?" I ordered, leaving no room for argument. The two of them grumbled but didn't say anything, and we all began eating. I had already lost my appetite, and it seemed to be the same with everyone gathered at the dining table. Kaytrona was the first to excuse herself, and I wanted to follow after her, but Zakkai stopped me with his hand, giving me a headshake. "It's best to let her be when she gets like this," he explains. "It won't last long, just give it to the afternoon when she feels all better." Choosing to listen to him, I remained seated. Darium and Nico were the next to excuse themselves, with Darium placing a kiss on the side of my cheek. This leaves only Neith, Zakkai, and me. The two were still throwing glares at each other, none of them ready to back down, and honestly, being in the center of it all just made my head ache. I was also disappointed at the fact that Katrona and I's plan was put to an end for now. I had wanted to spend time with her after breakfast, and we could find something to bond with while creating memories, but that was going to have to wait, all thanks to Neith. I didn't want to blame her, and despite not knowing fully what happened between them, I had wished she had been able to control her anger and not lashed out like she did. Then I would have gotten the chance to spend quality time with my sister. Was thinking such a thought and rendering blames for what happened make me selfish? Letting out a frustrating sigh, I thought to go check on Arsenio and Hasoslava instead. Seeing them would no doubt lighten up my mood. Getting up to my feet, I didn't bother saying a word to both of them and instead made my way out of the dining room, heading towards the nursery. Gareth, as well as the guards who were stationed outside the door of the nursery, bowed. Gareth had been tasked to protect the twins instead of me, as I trusted no one else for this task but him. Letitia. Zakkai called, stopping me from going into the room. "Can we talk?" he asked with a guilty look on his face. I glanced at him, my eyes blank from any emotions, and watched as he fudged with his fingers nervously before inhaling a deep breath. "Fine," I said, closing the door of the nursery, and I walked out of the hallway with Zakkai trailing behind me as I led him towards the garden. When we got there, the male servants who had been in charge of taking care of the flowers bowed, making their way out of the garden, and we both walked over to the bench, taking our seats. "I want to apologize for what happened earlier," he states, his eyes are remorseful. "It wasn't my intention for things to turn out the way they did or halt whatever plans you had with the princess, but I couldn't watch as that veil." "Zakkai," I called out in a reprimanding tone, and he gave a playful eye roll, retracting his words. "I couldn't watch as Princess Nithotep spoke ill of the princess," he stated, sincerity sipping from his voice. "The princess has already been through so much and is finally beginning to heal. Princess Nithotep's words only add to the hurt that she feels, and I doubt the Princess of Nisha feels any form of regret judging from our arrogant way she was acting. Neith isn't like that." I beg to differ. Neith isn't one to let her emotions get the best of her, and whatever enmity she has with my sister must be way worse than I thought it was. I defend. Princess Nithotep is a nice person and has been with me every step of the way since I got to the palace. Just give it some time, and I'm sure you both will become such great friends. "I highly doubt that," he counters. "Don't be too sure, you never know." "Trust me, I do." He says it again with full certainty, and I raise a brow. I would never be friends with someone who is against the princess or who wishes to cause the princess any form of harm. "Neith is harmless," I said. "I'm sure she and Katrona would work things out someday." "You really think so?" he asked, but I could tell he didn't believe it. "Yes, I do." He gave me a look, and his lips parted like he was about to say something before he shook his head. "Well, I don't believe so," he replies adamantly, and I decided not to argue with him further, as it seemed fruitless for now. Instead, I choose to ask what has been prying my mind. "I won't argue with you concerning you being friends with Neith or not," I began. "But what I would like to know is your feeling towards my sister." "WH.A. at. He stuttered out, clearly caught off guard by my question. "I don't know what you mean." I gave him a look that said, I didn't buy his act of innocence, and he looked away, avoiding my glance. I decided to probe him more, but he still didn't spill it out. "She doesn't happen to be the lady you fancy, right?" I asked again, and he gulped before letting out a scoff, trying not to react to my question without realizing he had already given his feelings away. I'm sure I wasn't the only one who noticed the way he looked at her or how quick he was to defend her from Neith. "If she really isn't the one, then I suggest you minimize how much attention you give and how easily you jump to defend her. I don't want anyone jumping to conclusions, especially Katrona." I meant what I said, even though I could feel deep down that he truly likes her, but if a part of him was saying the truth and I was the only one reading into it, I didn't want Katrona to get hurt through the process. She was already going through so much and was still finding it hard to open up and let us in on the truth as to what had happened to her and Afra months after their disappearance. "Why would you say that?" Zakkai asked, snapping me out of my thoughts, and his eyes met mine, anxiety in them. Because I think she might like you. He laughs, running his fingers through his hair. I doubt that. He says this, shaking his head. What could the princess probably like about me? I have absolutely nothing to offer. I'm nothing like those high-class nobles or royals. Nothing but a servant who cleans the king's stable. He concluded with a puff of breath, and my heart was saddened at this. Judging from the way he said it, I could tell he had thought about it over and over again, his thoughts weighing him down. I took a hold of his hand, giving it a firm squeeze. I don't think you are nothing but a servant, and I doubt Katrona thinks the same. I said. You are an amazing person, Zakai, someone who is funny, kind-hearted, not afraid to speak his mind, and sometimes manages to warm himself into the hearts of others without making any effort. I don't want you to think little of yourself. You are extraordinary, and maybe Katrona was used to men from the upper class, but none managed to grab her heart despite how rich they are. You, on the other hand, she fancies. I can tell by the way she looks at you, or how she was disappointed earlier when I told her you wanted our help to the dining room. You think so? His voice was filled with hope, and I smiled, giving a head nod. Yes, I do. So you don't have a problem if I decide to court your sister? I laughed. No, I do not, but I do have a problem if you decide to hurt her. Never! He said like the thought of it irked him. The last thing I would ever want is to see any spark of tears in her eyes or for her to get hurt. Good. Then you have my blessing. What about your brother, King Devlin? I don't think he would be so keen to the idea of courting your sister or being a potential suitor. Devlin may look scaring and intimidating, but he is softy at heart and would always want what is best for his sisters, which includes our happiness, so you don't have to worry about him. I won't be so sure about that. He said, avoiding my gaze, a mischievous and guilty look on his face, which made me curious as to what he could have possibly done. What did you do? What makes you think that I might have done something? He said it innocently, so innocently that I would have been almost fooled if I didn't know who he was. So I gave him a look that said I didn't buy his act, not one bit. Your brother and husband are very much alike. They seem to have something against me and are always glaring at me any chance they get. Scaring the crap out of me. I beg to differ. I said, countering his word. Darium and Devlin are nothing alike. Yes, they tend to be overly protective, Darium even more so, but Devlin is soft-hearted and won't have a reason to glare at you unless you give him one. So you are trying to say that your husband can be petty and childish? He asked, with amusement. No, I'm saying Darium only glares at you because he is overly protective of me and doesn't trust you yet. Devlin won't think of you like that unless you give him a reason to, so spill. He sighs. When I heard about the princess coming over to visit, I thought this would also be a perfect time for me. I wanted to spend time with the princess and at the same time visit here. He sighs again, this time more dramatic than the first. What did you do, Zakai? My voice was low as I waited for him to explain. I might or may not have troubled him a tiny bit. He said this, using his fingertips to demonstrate. When you say a tiny bit. Okay, fine, I did trouble him a lot. Showing up everywhere he goes. I think I was beginning to creep him out because I was banned from entry into the palace and was given a week off. Now that I think about it, I feel your brother is a cool-headed person. He says the last part to himself, and I struggle not to laugh while staring at him with my lips parted. You are insane, Zakai. I was not sure what to say. I won't really say I'm insane, maybe persistent. I'm here, aren't I? He states. It wasn't easily sticking my head out for you, but I wanted so much to keep our promise and make it here. After all, we are best of friends. Oh, don't go acting like it was because of me. You said it yourself, you wanted to spend some time with a certain woman with pale white skin, green eyes, and an angelic face. He blushes when I use these words to describe Katrona. And I didn't know we were best of friends? Of course we are. Just so you know, this is a privilege. I don't go around calling just anyone my best friend. I stared at him, baffled. And you said you weren't insane. Maybe just a little bit. But you must admit it fits us. He says this, nudging my shoulder. No, it doesn't. Yes, it does, admit it. He says, laughing, and I join in laughing as well. We both ended up laughing for a few minutes, and I was thankful to have him here, keeping my mind away from any troubling thoughts. Why don't we go check on the princess? Zakkai says after getting a hold of himself, raising to his feet. You know she won't mind if you address her by her name. Maybe, but we aren't in a rush, and I don't mind taking it slow if it means making her comfortable around me. The last thing I want is to overwhelm her. You truly do care for her. I do. He replies, without skipping a beat. Thank you. I felt grateful to know about his feelings for her, and to know that Kaytrona had a shot at being happy. You don't have to thank me for feeling this way. It is an honor to love and cherish her. This feeling is something I won't trade for the world and would cherish even if things don't work out for us. I truly hope for things to work out between you two, that way, we won't just be friends, but family, I said, nudging his shoulder. Family, he mutters to himself, a smile stretching across his face. I have never had one before. Being considered a part of your family sounds good. We both laughed, making our way out of the garden towards Kaytrona's room.